Hello and welcome to a very special end-of-year Words of the Year episode of Because Language, a show about linguistics, the science of language. My name's Daniel Midgley. I'm joined by our friends and patrons, people who have supported the show for ages and ages, or even just last week. So it's great to have you. Thank you for being here. And with me now, she's all tuckered out after a night on the tiles with Nobel Prize winners. It's Hedvig Hurgard. Hedvig, what have you been doing?
Hello. Yes. One of the people at my workplace got a Nobel Prize, which is fun.
That's amazing.
Yeah. He is the director of the genetics department, Mr. Svante Pääbo, and he got a Nobel Prize. And during the pandemic, he and his department developed this very quick test where you can test COVID in saliva. So we were doing it within the institute, and he was also doing it, or they were also doing it for a nightclub here in Leipzig. So there's a nightclub here called the Distillery, which is one of the oldest clubs. People kept saying last night that it was the oldest in the world, but people in Germany always say that something is the oldest in the world somewhere. It's old. It's a classic institution called the Distillery. And when they and he did the test for guests there so that they could have events on during the pandemic because they were very COVID compliant. Wow. And when he got the Nobel Prize, they were like, "Why don't you come and have a big party at our house?" So we had free food and free drinks for I think there were 200, 300 people there, probably more.
Goodness gracious,
it's a good time.
Grateful. It sounds great.
It was a good time. And Mr. Svante was hopping along on the dance floor with the best of them. It was great.
Hedvig, it seems to me that you are someone who hobnobs with the intelligentsia. As far as the intellectual world, you're pretty high flying. Would that be right?
No.
I partying all night with Nobel Prize winners. Oh, it's nothing. No big deal.
I tried to speak to him, but everyone tried to speak to him. I don't know him. Everyone was invited. Literally everyone in our institute was invited, and we all got to bring at least a +1. So it was a lot of people. I was not very special.
But what you're not saying is that after that, you got to bed at a reasonable hour so that you could come here and hang with us and talk Words of the Year. So thank you very much.
That is true.
All right. Well, today on this episode, we are going to be talking through Words of the Year, not just Words of the Year from dictionary bodies and word lovers around the world, and even in languages other than English, but we're also going to be revealing the Because Language Word of the Week of the Year for 2022, as voted by you, listeners, friends, people who bumped into our page, followers, and so on. So, we're ready. Please feel free to comment if you feel like. So let's see. The first one, Collins. The Collins Dictionary Word of the Year was permacrisis, defined as an extended period of instability and insecurity. Their rationale was that we have had a never-ending string of black swan events that have been, any one of which would have defined a typical year, but now we've got political instability, we've got a war in Ukraine, climate change, cost of living crisis, energy crisis, everything crisis. Oh, yeah, permacrisis.
What a way to start. Amazing.
I just thought, Collins, are you okay?
Wait, Collins, where are they based?
I don't know, but my memory of Collins is that they're mostly geared toward English learners. That was my sense. That might be wrong, but they do a lot of stuff.
Collins Online Dictionary.
Possibly even language learners, because they do Collins French and Collins German and Collins Italian and
that's right.
Collins.
That's right.
All sorts of stuff.
Oh, sorry. Before I get too far into it, forgot to mention Ben is unavoidably detained. I think he's in someone's car boot somewhere. So I have texted him how to get out. By the way, this is something that's very important to look up beforehand. He'll be joining us as soon as he can. Anyway, yes, permacrisis. So that's one. By the way, if you have any comments, feel free to just unmute and just bang them out like Aria Flame did. Let's go to the Cambridge Dictionary. Their word was Homer. Homer.
Why? What?
Yep.
Like the Greek man.
No, not the
And
Greek man.
the Simpson man.
Not the Simpsons man. No, a homer is when someone in baseball hits a home run.
Wait, are you serious that is the sense that they're using?
That is the sense in which they mean. And the reason why they chose that word is because it was a Wordle word for the Wordle word game one day. And when that turned out to be the word, people found it inexplicably perplexing. And so they hustled over to the Cambridge Dictionary, not specifically, but dictionaries in general, to look it up. So that's why.
Oh.
There were many Wordle words.
Is it also like a type of person? Like a homebody is a homer?
I have never heard a homebody described as a homer before, although it might be somebody who has an infallible ability to conduct themselves homeward under perplexing conditions. Let's just take a look at Homer in the dear old Oxford English Dictionary. Oh, I see also that a homer or an omer was a measure of liquid. Interesting. And that's the first sense. And then a homing pigeon. Hey, see, there you go. I had that instinct. You know, whenever there's even a slight curveball in the Wordle, whenever there's like a word that's specifically American or that seems especially, like I noticed that howdy, Howdy, was the Wordle word last year, one day. You never heard such complaining. People on Twitter were like, that's not a word, it's a colloquialism at best. And it's got like 100 or so years of track record. So just weird complaints that people have. People are very sensitive about weird Wordle words.
They're sensitive about losing and not being imaginative. That's it. By the way, I just looked in chat and I think that Diego and Margaret are correct that Collins are based in Scotland.
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
I looked at their webpage and I think that's true.
I think this says interesting things about the reasons people use online dictionaries, because sometimes we imagine that people are using it to like look up what a word means because they don't know. But often it's just because they're having dictionary fights. Vaccine did the same thing. Vaccine had tons of lookups because utter jackanapes on the internet were arguing that it's not this was a right-wing talking point. It's not a vaccine unless it's 100% effective all the time in fact, maybe even 101% effective. And that's part of the definition of the word. And people were like, fucking show me where it says that's the definition of a word. So
no vaccine does that. I thought it was going to be like, it's not a vaccine unless it comes from a cow.
Oh, that's it. That's what I want to hear.
It's not a vaccine unless the researcher tests it on themselves.
Yeah, something like that.
I was surprised. I thought that Jenner tested the smallpox vaccine on himself, but he didn't. He used some kid. So gave him cowpox and then gave him smallpox, and the kid was fine. Luckily for the kid. Oh well.
So Homer is their word of the year because they had a significant number of lookups of that word. Is that their rationale?
That is, and I gotta respect that because they weren't trying to grab the moment, right? They weren't trying to say something monumental. They were saying, this is the data. We may go no farther. So I respect that. I like what they're doing.
I like that. That's a given. That's a good methodology.
Yep. Next one. Merriam-Webster's word of the year, gaslighting. They also went by lookups. They said that lookups increased 1,740%. However, they said that it wasn't because of any single event that they could identify. It's just that there seems to be an awful lot of it constantly going on. Gaslighting.
So maybe we should explain for some people what gaslighting is.
Please.
I think it is when you I don't know exactly the etymology, but it's when you make someone else think that they're crazy by saying things so that they doubt themselves.
Undermining someone's
So like
confidence in their own
before we
reasoning.
left the house last night, Steve went around and turned down all of our radiators.
Okay.
But like I could, when we come home, I could be like, turn one of them up and then be like, honey,
you just forgot that one.
You just forgot that one. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not an excellent example, but like
a good example would be, well, sometimes when you're in a bad relationship, you'll understand what I mean if I say that there are reality fights. Like,
yeah,
you struggle with your terrible partner to establish the nature of reality and what you can agree upon. And it's when you get somebody who is trying to undermine your confidence, then they're gaslighting you. And the reason it's called gaslighting is because there was a 1938 play by Patrick Hamilton called Gaslight, where a husband is trying to undermine his wife's confidence in her reasoning or memory. And so he's turning up and turning down the gas lights in the house. So gaslighting has become quite a thing. I think it's jumped from being in a relationship context dealing with narcissists to, I mean, we have to deal with a lot of narcissists in the political sphere, in the social sphere. I'm thinking of the podcast by Sarah Kendzior and Andrea Chalupa called Gaslit Nation. We're seeing a jump of gaslighting into the political arena. So that's interesting.
I am a little surprised that it isn't related to that trial that happened this year. But yeah, I guess it wasn't.
Go back. What is this?
I'm using that trial because I don't really want to. So the Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing, and I would have thought that gaslighting would have come up in that context in a huge way, and that was like an extended period of time where that was going on. So I'm that like
you might be right.
Yeah,
that would be that would be a good candidate for the instance, because it wasn't one thing; it was like going all the way along.
Yeah, but that could be like a just so story, like a really neat, pithy explanation of the data that the data doesn't actually support. But yeah.
Good. Okay, let's move on to the Australian National Dictionary Centre, AusWorders. They had teal. We all know about teal, yes?
Well, I know that when it comes to outdoorsy girls, there are teal girls and magenta girls.
Oh,
you know about this?
No, I do not, but I'm curious. You got my attention.
Women's outdoor clothing are essentially in two colors.
Oh, okay.
Magenta and teal. And people tend to just stick with one. So you start picking magenta, soon you got a whole outfit in magenta. Yep. And
if you mix the magenta and the teal, then you look like that 90s cup, right? The swashy cup design. You know the one? Yeah, I do. And I think someone on TikTok or Twitter made the observation that like people don't tend to do that. So like you're either a magenta girl or a teal girl. But I don't know if that's what this is related to. I come on, we did this one with Tiger Webb back in episode 50.
Oh yeah.
It was the political word teal, and many candidates, independent political candidates, who were women and who were progressive but conservative-ish, had a lot of success because people were really into their environmental message of or relating to an independent political candidate or politician who advocates for greater integrity in Parliament and more action on addressing harmful climate change. So that is a teal.
Probably because it's sort of partway between green and blue.
That's it. And blue being the color of the Liberal Party, I believe, in Australia. This is very specific to the Australian concept.
Where the Liberal Party in Australia is the Conservative Party.
Yep,
that's right.
To confuse things.
Just to be confusing. I always like to say that the Liberal Party is kind of like I'm screwing up my joke now. That the Liberal Party, the Republican Party is kind of like the Liberals, and the Democratic Party is kind of like the Liberal Party.
But also you gotta.
That joke doesn't work anymore, by the way.
No, but also like liberalism, as in neoliberalism, is quite a conservative ideology.
Yes.
Also, this idea that Americans say that, oh, that's very liberal of you or something, that's a very specific use.
It's new. It's a new thing.
No, but also like to me, like, oh, you poured my glass of wine very liberally. Like it's that kind of use, I feel like.
Well,
Yeah.
it's
And I
related
feel
to the
like
word for freedom. Liberal
yes,
is related to freedom,
Yeah.
isn't it?
it
That's right.
is. And then like neoliberalism is a very specific ideology that a lot of people just call liberalism. And in Europe, like most things that are called liberal are on the right side of things.
Yeah.
I think US is the weird ones.
Once again, the US doing things that nobody else does, like using US letter paper or the imperial system. Oh, well.
Oh my God, I had to submit a journal article in US letter paper. I mean, I just changed the setting on Google Docs. It was fine, but
It's fine. It's fine. But then you had to change all your date formats as well. Oh, America.
oh, I'm never doing that. I'm not even sorry. You got me on a tangent and I'm a bit distracted this morning. We had gaslighting from Merriam-Webster and teal from Australia National Dictionary. What is next?
Oh, I wanted to also say that the Australian National Dictionary had cooker. That was one of their runners-up. Cooker. He's a bit of a cooker, a derogatory term for a person involved in protests against vaccine mandates, lockdowns, and a range of other issues perceived to be infringing on personal freedom. Oh, I didn't know that that person was
Ah.
cooked.
Yeah, cooked. Yeah, cooked and cooker.
Oh,
Oh,
cooker.
wow.
Mm.
So in the US there's pilled, right? Which is not the same, but similar.
Yep, we'll talk about
Like
pills.
that person's very pilled. And in German, people who don't like vaccines are Querdenker, across
Oh,
thinkers,
Like
Cross?
across
Anic-
like
anecdotally, in like technician and engineering sort of fields, the phrase "that thing is cooked" in Australia is often used for that thing is so broken you cannot fix it. You know, such and such is
Yeah.
cooked, we have to replace it.
Possibly an extension of its goose is cooked. Could that be where we get it? More research is necessary. Let's go to Macquarie Dictionary. They had 2 votes. One was a committee that chose it, and the committee was people that are quite good. Tiger Webb was on that committee. David Astle was on the committee as well. Other people, and they chose teal. But then they also had the People's Choice word. The candidates were Goblin Mode, which we'll get into.
yes.
Spicy cough, which is COVID. That's not just a regular cough, that's a spicy cough. And the winner, voted on by people, humans, Bachelor's Handbag. Woo! Which was one of ours
Bachelor's
a little while ago.
handbag?
Yeah, how many episodes can we remember?
Yeah, that's the thing. Also, it's very early in the morning and I had a big night out. So like I'm the perfect audience surrogate here.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. All right, audience, help us out. What's the Bachelor's Handbag?
It's the chicken thing.
It's the chicken thing.
It's a cooked chicken in a bag with a handle, and I guess bachelors can't cook, so they it's a prepared meal, and they walk around with it, so it's a bachelor's handbag.
Isn't it fitting that this
Oh.
involves a bag when it's got so much cultural baggage attached to it, like knowledge about bachelors, knowledge about how willing they are to cook, knowledge about supermarkets?
Maybe German supermarkets don't have them. Don't know.
It's pretty Australian. You know, you walk past the bread section and it's like, whoa, vegetarian me does not like the smell of all the bachelor's handbags. But
Mine's near the deli.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what it is. Deli, that place that I ignore. I ignored the deli to the extent that I thought it was bread. Okay, fine. So they also nominated, the committee for Macquarie nominated truth-telling, and they say, with increased discussion of the First Nations voice to Parliament, there is a sharp focus on the need for clear, unembellished truth-telling about our past. To which I respond, word. Let's go on to Goblin Oxford Languages. They had a vote between Metaverse, Goblin Mode, and I Stand With, and they chose people chose Goblin mode. This was voted on.
Oh yes, good choice.
This is, by the way, just want to say Oxford Languages is the one who did this. This is not the same as the Oxford English Dictionary. Sorry if I got that wrong, but this is the Oxford language vote. I think Goblin mode was a good choice, but Hedvig, when we talked about Goblin mode earlier, you did not like it. The idea is that it's, you know, foregoing hygiene, staying at home in comfy clothes, kind of giving up on the niceties a little bit. And I remember that hit you askance. Do you still feel that way? Or
I'm a homebody. I like being home. I like being indoors. I have fared very well during this perma crisis because I don't suffer that much mentally. Other people are like, I have to go outside at least once a day, otherwise I go mentally like funny.
Yep.
And I don't have that problem, which I've discovered, which is fortunate for me, considering the state of the world. And I guess that I am at home and I'm in comfy clothes and things, but I do keep hygiene. Like I do clean the kitchen.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if that's Goblin mode.
It sounds like it's not. It sounds like you're missing a few key elements of going full Goblin.
Okay.
I'm still kind of fuzzy on the designations between trolls, goblins, and ogres. I just, yeah.
Goblins are small
5.
small things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trolls are chosen ogres are kind of that in the same kind of sizes, but trolls like when you cut them, they heal themselves. That's kind of that's the D&D like.
Got to use
Okay.
fire or acid.
Yep.
Thank you.
So-
Trolls are
so
harder to
trolls
get rid of than ogres.
Trolls in traditional Scandinavian mythology also turn to stone in sunlight, which they also do in Tolkien verse.
And Terry Pratchett.
Yeah, and in Tolkien verse, they also, I think he says somewhere that goblins and orcs are the same.
Such a species would be very poorly adapted, it seems to me, to life on Earth.
Well, I think
Well,
Cratchit's trolls are the funniest because as they get warmer, they get stupider. But if you cool them, they get really smart.
because of semiconductors.
Wow.
yeah.
The
I
vote
think they
was-
use a similar logic in iZombie. Okay, anyway.
The vote was between Metaverse, Goblin mode, and hashtag I stand with, which came up because Ukraine or Rowling or many things. I'm glad Metaverse did not make it. That was kind of no. But does anybody
At
want
the
the
end
Metaverse
of the
to happen?
year,
The metaverse, I think,
at
is
the end
done.
of the
There's something happened in the last couple of days that means
I
it's
think
done.
I think the CEO quit.
Carmack quit.
Really?
Carmack left Meta
Yeah.
on
Okay.
Friday, and he wrote a scathing thing that became public very quickly. He basically goes almost as far to say that I don't think Meta's going to make it. I don't think this is going to happen. I think that they're just barking up the wrong tree, and I'm going to go off and do AI stuff.
Look, I don't want to read my uncle's posts. I certainly don't want to experience them in 3D with, I don't want to smell them.
no.
It's just
No.
a weird idea. But you understand why Mark Zuckerberg, this is my own analysis, and it's not my own analysis. It's fairly common. I'm sure everyone knows this already. But Facebook's problem is it doesn't own the device. If you want to look at Facebook, you have to use an Apple device or an Android device or something else that Facebook does not control. And that means that that's a choke point. And Apple can, for example, prevent Facebook from tracking you across devices, which means that they're cutting out advertiser dollars, which means advertiser dollars don't go to Meta.
It's more than that.
It's more than that?
Oh yeah. So
That's
the VR headset by its nature has cameras, and those cameras can see inside your house, and Meta owns all of that data.
We
If
don't
you have
need
Quest headset, that's in the license agreement. They're allowed to take all of that data and they're allowed to repurpose it for anything that they want. So yeah.
We're already really creeped out by Instagram ads that are suspiciously accurate. We don't need more.
No.
There's
God.
yeah.
It's just one more way in which Meta really just does not care about its user base. I said years ago on a Talk the Talk episode, there was a thing. Remember that one where some researchers got a hold? They allowed some researchers to use data to turn up the negative sentiment or positive sentiment on individual users' feeds and see how they felt.
I remember that.
And I said, if Facebook doesn't get this under control, it's going to get bad. Well, Facebook did not get this under control. Facebook showed that it really, really was willing to compromise user satisfaction and user safety. Really.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if we want to go down that rabbit hole, but like, not only was like they didn't pay attention to the results of that study, the only consent they had for running that study was their license agreement. So they didn't ask the users if they wanted to opt into anything. So that was essentially like an unconsented to experiment on a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff happening in the Mastodon space where researchers are looking at Mastodon public data and going, oh, we can do the same things we do here on Facebook. And a lot of the Mastodon admins are going, no, you don't own this. This is just because this is public does not mean you're allowed to reprocess this. You need to ask consent. And if we catch you, we will ban you from this instance. And there's a big sort of fight going on about that.
Good.
Thank you, Lord Mortis. That is honestly the best advertisement for Mastodon I've heard so far. That is very exciting. Ooh, speaking of exciting, Daniel, yes, we have a new person joining us.
Yes.
Who is that person?
Who is that? Sorry, I'm
Who
watching
is it?
It's not the Ben.
Is it Ben? All right, I'm gonna pin him. Boop. All right, that's cool. Thank you. I was unaware of that, so thanks. Well, let's move on until he gets here. Dictionary.com's word was woman. They said this year searches for the word woman on dictionary.com spiked significantly multiple times in relation to separate high-profile events. For example,
Bloody Matt Walsh.
That's
and
one.
Rowling.
That's another. U.S. Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson had her hearing, and Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn tried to turn it into a circus by throwing in, "Can you define woman?" So dictionary.com has made that the word. We have to be super careful when we go into a lexical space like this, because it's really easy to hand some awful people ammunition, and when that happens, it really is to the detriment of the community. So I looked at this and I said to myself, oh no, am I the only one that felt that way?
No, I my first reaction was just very naive and stupid. It was like, I'm a woman. Woo!
Awesome.
And then I was like, wait, why? And then I thought, oh, it's because everyone is upset that trans women exist and they want to talk about it, and they want to go to a dictionary to find the truth and then beat it over the head of someone else. And this is maybe where we need to remind people, I don't think many people listen to our show, but maybe in general, that like dictionaries try to record what is a cultural consensus and what is a convention, not what is reality.
Mm-hmm. But you're right.
And
It's dictionary. Things. It's dictionary fights all over again. Like Homer was a fairly benign version of that, but this is kind of bad, and we have to be super careful when we're stomping around. It's the same with pilled. So we had red pilled after the Matrix movie, when somebody had, become based.
Seen the reality behind reality, and how the cabal really pulls the strings and whatever. Yeah.
Blah blah blah.
That's being pilled.
But then I saw black pilled, and now it's kind of just throwing any random thing in. Like if I've been playing a lot of Zelda, I could say that I've been Nintendo pilled. I'm random thing pilled. But
you can?
This is a tweet by our pal Rickard Dockham, who mentioned this and was asking the American Dialect Society, hey, is pilled on your radar? Because this is coming up. And a few people responded to say, you know what? When you're co-opting language from the alt-right, even in this way, it's a little bit dangerous, because it mocks it, and in some ways it can remove its power, but it can also signal boost it. It can give that language validity, and it can sort of take their language and mainstream it. So again, we have to be pretty careful when we're stomping around in this area. Sometimes the mention distinction, whether you're using a word or whether you're just simply mentioning it, that can get lost. So
At the same time,
hey, it's Ben. Hang on.
Ben is here.
You gotta
Daniel said that.
We've already done the thing where you and I talked over each other, so that's good. The very first thing we did was that.
We're getting into our flow.
That's our way. That's our vibe. That's our style.
Hey.
What I was going to say on the appropriating language from the right side of things is that it's another reason it's so dangerous is because you can never predict what the rabid monkey pile is going to do. Like sometimes you disarm a thing completely by appropriating it, right? So
Dark Brandon.
Right. Like you can take a thing that they're using, and it kind of feels like maybe that's what's happening with Pilled here a little bit. Like if I've been Nintendo Pilled because I've played too much Zelda, that for me very much robs that thing of any cachet or power or any of that kind of stuff. But because like 4chan is just a bunch of just awful humans, you never know when it's going to turn into Pizzagate, right? Where like a random humorous thing will actually be appropriated to the point where it creates a conspiracy theory that like thousands and hundreds of thousands of people believe, and they use it as a basis for behavior like January 6th. So like that's also why I find it really dangerous.
Yeah.
Or go into a, because there's this conspiracy belief that's really weird, which is like they're mocking us. They're putting it in plain sight so that they're mocking us because we don't understand. So if you like ironically use something, they might be like, oh God, it's so many layers deep. It's like
there's no bad publicity kind of thing.
Very much so.
That very much so. But then again, maybe we're giving words too much power. Like maybe we're not the actors here anyway. All right, I'm getting down a rabbit hole. Let's go to the next one.
Okay.
Is everyone aware that Hedvig went to a Nobel party last night?
They are.
Do we all know this? Okay, cool. So they have contextual information for why you might be all over the place. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
We're just happy to have you. Let's go to the non-English words. A lot of these were suggested by Diego, who has been finding and unearthing a lot of these, but there are lots of other people, and this is the part where I want you to unmute and just jump in if you get the chance, because this is not my area of expertise. Russian, according to the Moscow Times, which is not a Russian state organism, their word was voyna, which is war. And that's how you know that it's not a Kremlin jam. Because
it's not special operation.
Right, exactly. The mobilization, and relokacja, relocation, which is the word for a draft, but they didn't want to call it a draft, so that's the Russian word of the year, according to the Moscow Times. Is it Moscow for English speakers or Moscow? Because I just call it Moskva. Moscow or Moscow? What do you say?
Diego, you're muted.
Moscow.
Moscow?
I think Moscow.
There's a Moscow, Idaho that I grew up near, and so now I'm eternally confused between the two.
Yes, because the one in Idaho, that thumping heartbeat of like culture, industry, and everything else is every bit as relevant as the capital of Russia. It's a very American approach, Daniel. Well done.
Hello to all our friends in Moscow. We know you're there. Thank you. Let's go to German.
That was addressed to the Idahoans as well.
The Idahoans. I actually was only referring to the Idahoans. Hello, Idaho. German. The word was Zeitenwende, which is epical change. Epical change. It was named the German word of the year, according to Deutsche Welle. What does any comments?
Epical change mean?
Epical, like the kind of change that happens once in an epic.
Oh, yeah, okay. I also saw it as era-defining change or even turning point when I looked it up on Google Translate. But of course, related to the Ukraine war.
Lots of that.
I don't know if English uses that word as much as German and Swedish, just epoch. Like this is the beginning of a new epoch. Epoch.
Epoch.
So it's
in history class, yeah.
In history.
Right.
Or if like me, you want to sound like a total wanker at a party. Yes.
I think this must be one
The
of those
problem is
things
that-
where it's an only Redditism for me. It's one of my Persophones. Epical. I don't know. Sorry, Hedwig.
You might say era. I think era has an equivalent. in English.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. In
Yeah.
Spanish we say época for era.
Yeah.
Let's go on. Margaret, we've got one from Norwegian.
Okay. Well, so the word of the year over here is krympflasjon, which is the Norwegian word for shrinkflation.
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought that was a pretty good word because that's happening all over the place at the moment, where prices are rising generally, and we just don't notice what food brands or supermarkets are doing. They're sort of quietly downsizing packaging or downsizing popular brands and not lowering the prices, or the price is the same or even higher. And it's very sneaky. They sometimes repackage as well, so they make it look new. And we don't really notice because we buy the stuff that we always buy. I mean, our shopping is mainly the same every week, isn't it? So and there was this guy who bought eggs at a supermarket chain called Kiwi here in Norway, and he just bought the pack of eggs as he usually does, and he went home and he thought, there's something funny about this, and so he checked his receipt. He compared it to the previous week, and then he noticed that the pack of eggs that was usually 18 eggs had now been downsized to 12 eggs. And the price. So, and this has been going on for a while. And there was this financial expert then who commented on this story, which reached the media. And it turned out that an egg, the price of an egg had risen by 74%. And nobody noticed until this, sort of thought, I have to check what's going on here. There's something funny.
Sneaky.
So-
Can I ask, Margaret, is shrinkflation as the transliteration specifically about groceries and their size changing? Is that what it's related to, or is it also is it an equivalent for what we have in English, stagflation, so stagnation and inflation?
I think they're slightly different. Slightly different. I think mostly food products, food brands, but any popular brand, I think it can refer to. So and it's been happening for a while, and I think, and it's not just in this country. I mean, it's happened. I've seen examples from the US and from the UK, chocolate bars shrinking and the price going up, and Coke.
I think the idea of the shrinkflation is basically that you keep the same price. It's inflation, but it's hidden because you keep the same price, but you reduce the amount. So versus the normal inflation is the same amount of goods, the price is higher, but you so it's this trick of hiding the process. That's the shrinkflation.
I'm glad you mentioned stagflation, Ben, because stagflation is one that came up a lot in the 70s during the economic crisis there. Usually recession and inflation are considered seesawing off of each other, but sometimes you get both, and that's stagflation. But now we're seeing lots of things like shrinkflation, suckflation, all kinds of different kinds of flation. So flation is really becoming a productive morpheme.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, and that's what I found interesting as well, that these new words keep popping up with inflation. So
let's move. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the Danish word of the year. Dita, you've been on the case for this one.
Yes. It was just chosen on the 16th, live on a radio show here. And I thought, previous years I haven't listened in, I've just read in the newspapers afterwards what it was, but it seemed like quite an interesting process, where first, like, all kinds of members of the public nominated words, and then they had a committee of 5 members that then all chose 10 words, and then they chose those words that at least 2 of the committee took, and that was 12 words, and then each of the committee got to have 2 wild cards they brought, and then they did different things to narrow it down, and what we ended up with was the Ukrainian capital Kiev spelled in the new Ukrainian way instead of
Cool.
Okay.
the way we used to describe it. That's more based in Russian. And a lot
I
of the
will.
So
runners
it's KY.
Ivy.
KYIV.
I will find a
so
copy of both in Ukrainian. I'll slap them up in post on this video.
I just
a
know
lot
that
of-
Norwegian has a special spelling, so I was thinking maybe you'd spice it up somehow.
A worthy
a lot of the runners
contender.
up a lot of the runners up had to do with like energy crisis thing. There was energy crisis. There
Yeah.
was like elskam, which means basically electricity shame, and also just scam, shame, with a hyphen in front to show that it has become very productive. We're ashamed of a lot of things, among those how much electricity we use.
Hedvig
because-
Flugskam was one from a while ago.
Yeah, same.
Flight shame
I
when you feel bad.
had a word flygskam. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And the opposite is tågskryt, like train bragging.
Train bragging.
I love that, like chug-a-brag.
And I think the reasoning for choosing Kiev in the end was both like to show some support for Ukraine, but also because that's kind of what started the energy crisis that a lot of the other words had to do with.
Wow, it really does
Yeah,
kind
fair
of
enough.
combine those. Wow. All right. The Swedish word of the year hasn't been announced yet. It's going to be announced on 27 December, apparently. So we will have that one for our next
Also-
episode in January.
And also the Swedish custom is to not announce one word, but to announce a list.
Yes.
Oh, so democratic.
I don't even
But socialistically so.
I have opinions about the way this goes on, but recently the peaking of this has gone to a newspaper, Språktidningen, which I've written in and where I like the editor. And so I think maybe it'll be better.
Sorry,
Okay.
what Hedvig, what is Swedish for published brag?
The word in South Africa's, according to the Pan South African Language Board, is load shedding. That's the English one. There were others. Load shedding refers to the way that there's not enough energy in the grid, and so the power board decides that some people just won't get power, so that the whole thing doesn't go down. And it's been a whole thing. There have been guards stationed at power stations to avoid damage and problems. Japanese word of the year. This one suggested by River. River, are you around? We weren't sure if River was going to be here or not. Diego, do you want to help us out on this one?
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, it looks like for in Japan, the word that they've chosen is actually named after a baseball player from the Tokyo Yakult Swallows. That's the name of the team. So the word is Murakami-sama. The gentleman's last name is Murakami, and then the Sama honorific, I think, is the equivalent of like Mr. So it's like Mr. Murakami. And yeah, he's been very popular.
Does anyone, from my anime weeb days, I feel like Sama might be a little bit more high order than that. Like, so my understanding is Sama is like more deferential. You would say Sama to a person that you admire. So like, sir in the knighted sense kind of thing.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
But
Sama's
it is
definitely more honorific than San.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Which makes sense,
But
right?
it's
Because
still-
it sounds like they're Kobeing this guy, right? Like that's kind of how the name's being used.
Is this being used in other contexts besides the person's name? Like I know when
Yeah,
someone
this is
says
just
Kobe when they're throwing a basketball, that's a thing that happens. Is this being extended, I wonder? I should know this. Skimped on the research for this one.
Do you mean the Sama honorific?
No, I
No,
mean the
just
name,
like the
Murakami
Murakami.
Sama.
it's
Like
just
if someone
it's
does
just
something really
unusual
cool,
to
do like teenagers go like Murakami-sama?
Murakami-sama!
Yeah, it's like I mean, there are a lot of people we all talked a lot about this year, and none of the other ones they made it to like the word. Like Elon Musk wasn't a word of the year. You know,
Imagine that.
No,
Imagine
I'm
playing
also
baseball
curious.
so well that your name, just your name, becomes the word
Yeah.
of the year.
That's
Yeah.
pretty
I hit a
don't-
ball
Tops.
real good.
buzzword.
Or maybe
Oh,
he
Yeah,
throws
it
the ball
says
real good.
specifically here, he's posing for a picture after his nickname, Murakami-sama, was selected as Japan's top buzzword in 2022.
It's a
Also,
play.
I don't know if that
Wow.
qualifies
Yeah.
as a nickname, right? Like if people were calling me like Mr. Ainsley, it's
Sir Ainsley.
Well, apparently his name already has like a play on words with the word for God. So I guess that somehow
there we
works into
go.
it.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Okay.
Wow.
Very good. Let's go on to the River also
No, yeah,
mentioned
let's-
the character, the kanji of the year, which was sen, meaning war. So that's worth a mention as well. Switzerland. We had a lot of shortage related words. You know, what do you do in a word of the year contest when you have 4 official languages? You pick 4. The German one is Stromangelage. Hedvig, help me out with the energy shortage. Stroman. Somebody who speaks.
I'm.
German better
It
than
wasn't.
me.
Oh, Stromangelage.
Oh, I did it right. Okay, very good.
Stromangelage. Sorry,
Come on, Daniel, you
Stromangelage.
idiot.
Sorry. Then
Energy
friend.
shortage.
That's energy shortage.
Boycotteur. To
Boycotte
boycott.
in French. Italian
Or
penuria.
sorry, boycotte
Boycotte.
and penuria shortage in
That's the Italian
Italian, and
Mhm.
then manchanza shortage in retromanche, I guess.
What were they?
Yes.
That's
Can
the first
someone?
one.
I'm not super abreast of like Swedish domestic news. What would? Sorry,
Swiss.
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 Sorry, Hedvig. Sorry.
It's okay.
What were the
It's
Swiss?
okay. Happens all the time.
I know, but not to me. What were the Swiss running out of?
Energy, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gas, petroleum products, I would imagine.
Okay.
Mhm.
Alright.
Yeah.
Just the same
Yeah.
thing as everyone else. Got it.
There's
I
a
just
lot of
I
that.
was just checking
But
to see if it
the
was
Swiss
like
do this.
cheese.
The Swiss are cheeky country. I know that like usually their strategy is that when France produces too much energy, they pump up all their water to a high point in their
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
mountains.
Yeah.
And then when they run out of energy, they let that water down and
is-
they
I
use
don't-
the
that-
hydro energy.
That's not cheeky. If France doesn't
That's
want to
pump-
build a big battery, that's their fault.
It's a battery.
I know. It's just it's
spot the engineer in the room. It's not cheap to be efficient.
When you've got
No.
when you've got the space and the height for pump storage, go ahead, use it.
Yeah,
Hedvig
it's a store of
making
energy.
enemies left, right, and center. I'm
Just
loving it.
please don't like inundate forests to do it.
Yeah. Let's go
Yeah,
on to
most
the
countries, yeah.
German youth word of the year, which was smash or smashing, the verb smashing, which could mean starting something with someone, picking someone up, or having sex with someone. And that's
Wow.
kind of a borrowing of the English usage, as in smash or pass.
What a productive word, because we kind of really only use it the one way, right?
Oh
No,
no!
smash or pass.
Yeah, but
Like-
that just means sex.
Yeah, but in English, we also use it to mean that you were very successful at something, like I smashed it.
Oh, true. Yeah, I forget how my own language works. Thanks for reminding.
Remember, every English word is polysemous, except for the word polysemous.
That
The
is
sec-
Oh my god.
such a linguist joke.
Yeah, I found out to my dismay. I said every English word is polysemous to someone. Why are you complaining about literally? And they said, what about polysemous? And I looked it up and I said, no, actually, that's just because one meaning.
Just one. It's just got one
Just the
numeral
one.
right there.
The German second place verb for youth was bodenlos, which means bottomless or groundless, and that means super bad. Oh, it was bottomless.
Oh, like abyssal. I like that. That's so evocative.
Yeah, I know. I like it.
Mm.
How was your time? Have you ever seen the movie The Abyss? It was like that.
It was like that, except my life. Signed languages. I was looking for any sign language, any word of the year in any signed language. Got a nice tweet from the Swiss Federation of the Deaf saying that they were working on it, and so that's coming up. So on our next episode, we look forward to presenting all the ones we didn't get to, the Swedish one, any sign languages that we can find. And also, the American Dialect Society Words of the Year will be nominating ours for the American Dialect vote, and we'll get to that. But before we get to those, it's time for a game. Who feels like a game?
I feel like a game.
The game is related or not. It's time to play.
Oh, yes.
So I was listening to a bit of Svenborg Kardub with my daughter. One of their popular songs is called Haven. And she read it as heaven because she's 6. And I said, it's not haven, it's not heaven, it's haven. She says, what's the difference? So I had to explain that. And then I started wondering, are they related or are they not? So here we go. We are launching a poll. Heaven and haven. Are they related or are they not? Now's your chance to vote.
I went hard.
I see the poll results, but I can't. Oh, because I'm an admin.
Oh,
I'm not.
I see you guys voting, but I can't vote.
Well, now's your chance. Why don't you tell me what you think?
Well, I think they're not related.
This is good because I voted they were, and it means one of us is going to win and one of us is going to lose.
Okay, but did you have a reason? I know that there might be some Old Norse floating around here.
Yeah, just like the Germanic ones I know. I think they are a bit different, and I don't know. Well, the reason for them being related is that like when you like haven as in a port, and you go to heaven as in like you come to port, you come home.
A home.
Maybe yes. I've been watching too much Rings of Power. In Tolkien verse, you sail to heaven, like in a boat, you sail to heaven.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not entirely convinced that will be the explanation behind the words that have a root history of hundreds of years.
Yeah, okay.
Well, and then I thought to myself, that's not a very good reason, so they must not be related, because I couldn't think of a better one.
Okay. Well, I'll end this poll. As you can see, the results were 7 out of 10 of you said, yeah, they're related.
One of those doesn't count because I had to vote twice.
Yes, you did. Okay, fair enough. And the correct answer, they are unrelated.
Boo!
Yay!
Boo! Oh.
Heaven comes from Old English Hjofen, the home of God, probably from Proto-Germanic Hibin. Haven is port, and that's an archaic sense of port in English. Seems to come from a different Proto-Germanic word, hafno. So, not related. Thank you. Now it's time to reveal the Because Language Word of the Week of the Year. And we're going to count them down from number 10. Actually, number 9, because there was a 3-way tie for 9th place.
Oh, okay.
Love to hear your comments on any of these. Anyone? So one of them was Desire Path, a well-worn trail, maybe through a grassy area that people use because it's more convenient than established paths. That was a while ago. We had that one. Another 9th place finisher was Platijubes, an alternation of Platinum Jubilee, the 70th anniversary of the accession of Queen Elizabeth.
My goodness, that happened this year.
I know, right?
Like, God, kind of a lot's happened since then.
I know. And also, she died.
Yeah, well, that was part of the kind of a lot.
But
it's actually only a small part of the kind of a lot.
Yeah.
The joke on Twitter was that Platijubes was followed closely by Statey Funes.
Oh, God.
Anyway, and also in 9th place, Linguistic Drawbear, a made-up term that Australians may jokingly represent as actual Aussie slang to outsiders, satirizing the unusual or charmingly silly nature of Australian slang, named for the mythical animal that drops on you when you're walking around under trees that doesn't exist.
What a bloody fleeble floor, hey?
I know, right? I heard that just yesterday.
Oh, fleeble flooring all over the place.
Oh, yeah. Number 8, Goblin Mode with 28 votes, a tendency to stay inside all day wearing comfy clothes and foregoing hygiene. So that was the Oxford winner, but it only came in at number 8.
Can I tend a addendum to Goblin Mode?
Please.
I feel like that definition no longer fully encapsulates the semantic space that phrase occupies. I don't know, agree or disagree, friends, but like I've seen a lot of people using Goblin Mode to basically mean like unashamedly nerding out on things, or just being really quite like having a lot of anima. So for instance, I've seen people say like, oh, time to go wade pooling, and then they go along the foreshore and be like, oh my god, look at it, it's a limpet, look at this is kelp, look at this is, and they're like in Goblin Mode, but they're outside doing things still. So I don't know if they're like purely inside nature of it.
So going feral?
Yeah, kind of being feral, but like
enthusiastically feral.
Yes,
hyper-focus.
Exactly. Like the most endearing form of like positive goblin representation. Think goblin artificers, right? People who are making like things that explode and being really excited about it, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Well, that would be about 5 minutes, but yeah.
I think that kind of activity, like really being enthusiastic and really into something, like maybe what we would call like nerd out or be nerdy into it, is a very funny semantic space. So like in Swedish for a while, I think it might still be a thing, we would use the word for gay men.
Right.
Like if if you're really into, sorry,
like sorry, yeah, you're gonna have to connect those dots for me.
For example, if you really like Nintendo, you could be a Nintendo word for gay man.
Oh my gosh.
Even if you're a woman.
Oh,
what level of word for gay man? Are we talking like vague pejorative? Are we talking like what's the?
Okay. I say as a non-gay man, but it's bög.
Is it?
Which is like neutral.
Like, is it some sort of level of otaku?
Some people say I'm gay for this thing, you know.
Which doesn't mean gay, but has that sort of level of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
But also possibly a little too enthusiastic, and let's go over there.
Like you're right on that social grey zone line of like, you have a lot of swords. Like that sort of thing.
I saw someone use it for someone who was really into knives.
Right, that's exactly where my brain went. Like when you walk into someone's house and they have lots of My Little Ponies, and you're like, okay, that you have made choices.
You are off-puttingly enthusiastic about this thing.
Not off-puttingly. Like I try really hard to be like, you like this thing more than anything I've ever liked, but that's cool.
That's great. Let's go on to number 7, the something urge to, denoting a tendency, the masculine urge to give your opinion, or this is a real tweet, the feminine urge to open a coffee shop that's also a library and bakery and a floral shop.
I am currently in the millennial female urge to paint any wooden object in my house another color because I bought a bunch of acrylics.
Hey, that's lovely. I really like what you're doing there.
You're so crafty. By the way, that is absolutely a version of Goblin Mode.
I just have to.
That's 100% what Goblin Mode is.
Yep.
Oh my god, I'm such a goblin then.
So this was on the list for the American Dialect Society a couple of years ago, so we're a little behind on it, but it's nice to see it again. There was a tie for number 5, acting one's wage, which I was very pleased to see that quiet quitting didn't make it that far, but acting as one's wage did. I think it's a much better term. Setting work-life boundaries while fulfilling one's work duties and no more. Thanks to Colleen for this one. Colleen, you're the winner. You're number 5.
Yay!
Now, also tied for 5, precariat, a class of workers who face job insecurity. Okay.
The fifth position is very labor union-y. I like it.
I like it too. Okay, then there was number 4, ussi or ussie, the combining form. Used to mean any orifice, canal, or opening. For example, there's only one electricity in this room.
You monsters.
Oh, this is such a. This is. We think this is funny. We think this is great. No one used this seriously.
Well, jokingly perhaps. It started with bussy for your anus, your boy pussy, or butt pussy. Went from there. I noticed that we put up a poll once. What should be the word? Thanks to Lena for this. What should be the word for the hole on the puppet through which the puppeteer inserts their hand? And my poll choices were the El Mussy, the Kermussy, the Lamb Chussy. And the winning answer at 62% was the last one, unsee this. So it's got its fans, but for example,
detractors as well.
For the last many years, the Sesame Street ending credits theme has Grover doing a really enthusiastic dance, and I am in the habit of, whenever that's on, I run up and I do the Grover dance. And let me tell you, I put my whole Grovussy into that dance. Okay, that was number 4.
This gives me such an ick. You know how most people respond to moist? That's the appeal. Absolutely how I respond to this productive, and it's just awful.
I want to say
that
really
this was positive. That's the worst part. Like, it's not that you're talking about sex stuff. Sex stuff is great. It's this word. It's bad.
Yep. This one was doing okay on the vote, and then suddenly, for no reason, it started racking up tons of votes very quickly on Twitter.
Oh.
I don't know why. So let's go on. That was number 4.
Almost certainly a racist thing, for sure.
I think there's just a lot of people who like it, but they like to make people squirm in that moist way. Okay. Number 3, we're down to the top 3. Are you ready?
Yes.
Main character syndrome.
Yes.
A person is said to have this if they treat others as merely supporting characters in their lives.
Can I add a postscript to that one?
Please.
Something I've seen in the youth of my job. NPC has become a very common burn to lay.
That was one of ours as well, but it wasn't as popular. But it didn't make it to the top 10.
Non-player character.
Non-playable
character. I feel like NPC and main character syndrome are just like working together, and these kids are just like, "Oh, sir, no, that's such an NPC move, sir. You can't do that."
I'm not going to let some NPC tell me to get vaccinated and wear a mask.
Things. Oh, you're like an NPC. I'm like, okay, fair, I guess, because in a video game, the teacher's not going to be the main character.
No, you're going to be somebody who just does the same thing over and over again and bumps into things, and
But sometimes, like a couple of years ago, I was in Stockholm. It was very foggy, and I needed directions. And I was walking around, and it was that kind of fog that you have in video games when the graphic isn't rendering and they're trying to save on your GPU. And I walked up to a woman with a dog, and I was like, "Do you know the directions to this place?" And she was like, "I do not." And then she kept standing there. And then I walked up to another person that was like, "Do you know the direction?" And they were like, "I think it's there and to the left." And they were all just standing like an NPC in a game. They were just standing in their spots. And I walked up to them and was like, "Hello, I'm a traveler. I need,
Hedvig, is there a non-trivial chance that you're just recounting a acid story to us right now? Like
Have you mistaken the video game for real life?
Either that or she wandered into a flash mob.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Let's be NPCs.
It just happens sometimes,
Did any of them take an arrow to the knee?
No. Also, I'm just telling you, I was in the fog and I asked 2 people for directions, and you're all like, "You were an acid." Like,
no,
I think you were in a flash mob.
Hang on. No. You were in the fog asking people for directions, and then they were weird robots answering me and serving no other function. That's the story you told, my friend.
Let's go on. Oh, sorry, Aria Flame.
Well, if you don't actually interact with the NPCs, you don't get any further in the quest. That I can tell you.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Number 2. Hedvig, this is one of yours. Not.
Ooh.
Yay.
Yeah.
Used to show that a situation is undesirable or embarrassing. Example, not my best friend getting into NFTs. Or other examples?
Not me. This actually happens. Not me recounting something I've experienced and people ask if it's acid. because that happens surprisingly
I
often.
like that you had to preface that statement with,
Wow.
this is something that I've actually experienced. Like we all didn't just
2 minutes
experience it with
ago.
you like 35 seconds ago.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
that's a
but
great
more
example.
than that time. I'm trying to say that it's happened more than a time. Like one time I was very dehydrated in a open mine and there was a pile of sand. And there was a pile of sand. And I got this idea in my head. I had no alcohol, I swear, no MDMA, no, nothing. And there was a pile of sand. And in my head, I got this idea that the sand was sentient and that the sand loved me.
Aww.
Yeah, you're right.
And
Hedvig.
I just
the
like
problem
sat
is
down
with
in
the
the
world.
sand and had a
It's
great time.
certainly not with you.
That's lovely.
As an ex-raver, that like tracks perfectly with the stories I remember at come down parties. Like perfectly.
For sure. Like you'll be at a urinal with someone,
was, like,
and within the
lovely.
end of a pee, you'll be like, we're doing it, man. We're traveling to Europe. It's happening. Let's go. Let's do this.
Let's start a
TikTok-
podcast.
The tick toxins can be wow.
But also,
Well.
it was really nice. Like I just like sat down in the sand and like dug
drugs
myself into the
are, Hedvig.
sand.
Drugs are really nice. That's why people take them.
No drugs.
No
I
drugs
think my
involved.
brain is just. I think the things that happen in people's brains when they are on drugs sometimes just happens in my brain.
Brains are
I
great.
believe you. I believe you.
Very
I
cheap.
believe that is the thing that's happening.
I lost track. What word were we on?
We were on
Oh,
not.
sorry.
that
Not.
was number 2.
Not.
Which means that we're up
Sorry.
to the winner, the Because Language Word of the Week of the Year. Oh, and it's one of Hedvig's.
Boo.
And it's the word is yes. The word is yes to non-polar questions. Using yes as an
Oh,
answer
right.
to questions that are not yes and no to mean always or to a great extent. Example, how much garlic is appropriate? Yes. Which means lots. Let's hear your examples. I got an example, but I want to hear yours. Has anyone said yes to you for a non-polar question?
Should we get that cookie or the other cookie? Yes.
Okay, that's an interesting one. That's kind of a computer science joke, right? Because if you get both of the cookies, it still evaluates to true because it wasn't exclusive or, right?
Yeah.
The way I see it used is when it can also be like with bad things or good and bad things. So people were like, so did you like fix the car or were you stuck out there for hours? Yes. Like clearly something happened. Like I'm saying that yes, the situation resolved in some way or another, but it fucking sucked. Like
Well, I was at a gig with my sons and my pal Mark. We went to Krungbin. I don't know if anybody's into Krungbin or saw them when they came to Perth. They had to delay
hey,
for COVID.
Hedvig, what's Swedish for hipster brag?
Shut up. They're just a good band, man.
Hipster
I don't know if you know,
hipster
if you guys
brag.
know this band Schlavelhuventag. It's pretty underground. You wouldn't know it.
So they're a 3-piece and they do kind of Thai inspired funk and stuff, and they're really good. But they did a cover, and they started with In Excess Need You Tonight.
Did you say
Da,
3
da,
peas
da.
as in like piece in a pod?
3-piece band. I'm telling a story. And not Hedvig interrupting me. And so they did Need You Tonight, but only for 8 bars. And then they broke into 8 bars of Back in Black. And then they did just like 20 different covers. There was Tom Tom Club with Genius of Love. There was like, it became kind of like a trivia contest. Could you identify all the references? And my son leaned over to me and said, which cover did Krungbin do? Yes.
There we go.
Song.
Yeah, good.
So that was a spontaneous usage from a Zoomer.
From a
There you go.
Zoomer.
So congratulations to Yes for
is
being
he a
the
Zoomer?
because I think he is. If you're born in
Yeah, he is.
1998, are you a Zoomer? Or are you millennial? Yes.
88?
98.
98.
98. 10 years
I'm
younger
not
than me.
that
Yeah, I was confused. I don't know, but can you ask him
He's
if
a-
he thinks
he's a
I'm cool?
zillennial.
'Cause I'm on a I'm
That's it.
trying to see if I can get all Zoomers to think I'm cool.
Okay. He thinks you're cool. He thinks you're great. Let me just
And he's
say,
definitely a millennial.
I did a little hunt to see which terms were disproportionately popular on Twitter and Facebook, because those were Twitter, Facebook, and Discord were our things. I did a ratio, so how many I took Twitter and divided by Facebook votes. Higher numbers mean more popular on Twitter. Here were the things that were disproportionately popular on Twitter. No, because who's following me out of the blue like this? Swedengate, Crumb Maiden, someone who supports existing power structures, Ussy, and Gender Anarchy. Those were the 5 biggest ones that were most popular on Twitter. Oh, Twitter, no wonder you are the way you are. And the most disproportionately popular on Facebook were Sharkano, an underwater volcano that sharks are used to, Precariat, what's going on there, Alago, a combining form meaning some kind of scandal compared to gate, quiet quitting, and main character syndrome. So those are the Facebook popular ones. Facebook, you're a bunch of basic bitches. Those were the Because Language words of the week of the year. Let's give them a big hand. Woo!
Yay!
Okay, it's time for, before we get to the words we missed, which many of our friends are bringing us, let's do Related or Not Volume 2. Here we go.
I got my thinking hat.
Like my
How
time
do
to shine.
I do this? All right. The question: ambush and an actual bush. Does the word bush have anything to do with ambushing someone? Yes or no? Ben, Hedvig, any ideas? Instincts?
I am voting no twice.
Interesting. Not going to mix it up.
Ambush.
Well, I mean, if I
an
get yes or no,
ambush-
then I've just voted nothing.
Yes. Hedvig?
Well, you could jump out of a bush when you ambush someone.
You could do that.
So I'm going to say they're related.
Yes.
Okay.
Take the
Okay.
opposite point.
Okay, we have, I think there's still 1 vote outstanding. There were 10 last time out of 10, so I'm gonna, nope, good. Okay, I'm gonna end the poll. Looks like, so far, totes related, 44%. Nuh-uh, not related, 56%. There you go. Screenshot. And the actual answer, they are related.
Oh, this is fucking bullshit.
Yep.
This is
100% fail.
Hedvig, you're right twice.
I do not like that phrase coming out of your mouth, Daniel.
Ambush comes from Old French emboucher, to hide, or what you've got is in, and then bush, which is wood, bosque, and so bois, and so on. So what you're doing is you are ambushing yourself. The am is an in, so that you can either jump out at someone or else you're luring someone into the bush. They are in fact related.
Yeah.
Fun. Okay, we'll have another one later on, but now it's time for the words we missed. So the one that Aristemo suggested was a blank piece of paper. No words on it at all. What better word of the year than no words? And the context here is this happened in multiple countries, in China, in Russia, in authoritarian places. Protesters would hold up blank pieces of paper and then get hustled into police vans.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
A way of
Yeah.
protesting against the absence of freedom of expression. So it's a very good sort of way of civil disobedience. It's like, I can get arrested just by saying nothing at all. And that's how terrible the situation is where I'm at. I think it's very effective.
Very easy to meme on the photo afterwards.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
This is why I don't hold
Accidental
up pieces of
success
paper.
or successful success. Who knows?
Mhm. Okay, another one. Spicy. This I wasn't really
Yes.
aware of until Hedvig pointed it out. It came up on a few episodes. Spicy take.
Yeah.
You've never. What do you
Yeah.
mean you've never heard of this, Daniel? What?
I heard the first time I heard it was on our show.
Ben, you and I are on TikTok and he's not.
I guess.
So there's lots of uses. So I follow a lot of cat rescues. So kittens who are
Spicy kittens,
like spicy kittens are like kittens who are like when you try and grab them, they're like,
oh, it's a spicy one.
Spicy cough we had earlier.
Yes,
Spicy as in like a little bit like erotic, like, oh, that person has a spicy profession, they're a sex worker.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing happens as
and
well.
And of course, spicy takes that might be controversial or unpopular.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Good. Energy. The word energy has been used in lots of contexts, but we've seen big dick energy. But now I'm seeing things, I mean, I've been seeing this all year, but I didn't notice it enough to put it as a word, but talking about something having the same energy as something else, meaning it's kind of in the same mode, it's kind of got the same vibe.
Yeah.
Someone in the Guardian
has been sitting higher as well because of actual energy stuff, like literal usage of energy.
Someone in the Guardian said that John Cleese had divorced energy, and I just have
God, he has ferocious bitter divorce energy.
Sorry, Hedwig.
No, I agree. John Cleese has divorce energy, but I was thinking the other day about like trying to explain the kind of internet culture that I am a part of to my mother, because I'm realizing that I was thinking like maybe it's like a very, very complicated in-group joke. That's maybe how I could explain memes. But when it comes to like, sometimes people take two vines or like meme videos and say, oh, these two have the same energy. And it's so conceptual and abstract, but I really agree. You know, has this ever happened to you?
No, I Abe Simpson in situations like that. I 100% when people are like, oh, look at these two clips that give off the same energy, and they're like completely bafflingly different. I'm just like, I used to know what it was, then they changed what it is, and now what I am isn't it, and what it is scary and weird, and it'll happen to you.
I still know what they're talking about, but it's very vibey. Like, it's very hard to like. What's a good one? Like, you know, like, have you seen the thing like Picasso? I like it.
Yes.
Like, how do you explain that?
Oh,
what energy is that?
Like just baffled but genuinely open and supportive. That's how I read that particular thing. And then as it gets memed further and further, I find with all mimetic transposition, it doesn't, in my experience, it doesn't get richer, it actually just gets simpler. So like okay, Picasso, I like it, kept going and going and going, it eventually just meant this is a good thing. Like that was the level of semantic depth that it had. I think we've baffled the Gen Xer. Should we bring it back?
At this stage, it's too late for me to find out.
Culture can be very conceptual and abstract.
The suffix "ol," a productive suffix for any daily online game with results you can share with friends. I expect this one to go a long way in the American Dialect Society vote.
My favorite, by the way, doesn't have an "ul" at the end though. I'm all about the framed.
Oh yeah.
Love me some framed.
I'm glad they didn't call it movie dull.
There is a movie dull. It's a different thing.
Okay. Mid, meaning mediocre.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is very popular amongst teenagers.
Yep. It's a bit mid. Am I using that right?
No, but that's okay. Like blah, but if any teenager heard you say that, they would just be like, oh.
I've got a tweet here from Sam Altman. Biggest indicator of a mid company is spending tons of energy on things other than making their core product / service better. So mid-tier, mediocre.
I love that the example we found is clearly not a young person talking about business of all things.
I think he is.
It could be a young liberal or something.
Oh, well, I suppose that's true. Yeah.
I don't follow them.
Sorry.
How did we go?
Ben talked about, so there's Wordle and all these games, the thing you talked about previously. And then I was like, what the fuck is Framed that you mentioned? And I went to it and I played it and I got it in one guess. The first.
Nice.
Gotta pull up
no
today's Framed.
Everybody.
Yep. It's gonna happen. It's happening.
Okay, yeah.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, they gave you an easy one.
Okay, I'm gonna think about it. Anyway, Here we go.
Okay,
The next,
sorry,
next
Ben.
one.
Sorry, Daniel. We're the worst today. I'm the worst today.
River suggested aro ace, aromantic asexual. Is it aro ace or arrow ace? Help me out.
I don't know.
I believe
I
it's
don't know
arrow.
either.
I believe
Arrow?
it's arrow ace.
I think it's
Okay.
arrow
Yeah.
ace.
The term has kind of exploded, says River, and everybody is talking about it, and lots of people are learning about the term. Diego, Umer, what's this?
Yes. So I'd come across Doomer. I can't remember exactly what the context was, but it kind of led me down the rabbit hole of maybe Umer being a productive morpheme. Most popularly we have, Boomer and Zoomer, and then we have Doomer is the one that I had that was new to me. So it's pretty much people who are, on the internet looking at or worried about things like
doom scrolling type
overpopulation.
individuals.
Right, exactly. There's a bit of an overlap with that. And then on Urban Dictionary, they also mention like gloomer and bloomer and stuff like that. So there's a few of them out there.
Those are specifically about climate change, right? People who are pessimistic about climate change.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's not that they're worried. It's just that they think everything's going to hell and we can't do anything about it and everything's going to be terrible.
Like
An
give up
exit
crap.
actually.
Let's just
the
consume our
alternate,
way to the end.
Not productive. Let's now share a recording from Pharaohcat, who brought one, and that's tire extinguisher, not fire extinguisher, but tire extinguisher. And I'll play that now.
Hello, Pharaohcat here. The word I want to mention is tire extinguishers. This is a term I first noticed in a Guardian article. Tire extinguishers are climate activists who have been deflating the tires of SUVs as a protest against high-polluting vehicles. On one occasion, they apparently deflated the tires of over 900 SUVs across Europe and the US in one night. So that term again is tire extinguishers.
So, spicy.
Look at you using the lingo of the young people. Well done.
I'm a quick learner, I'll tell you.
Yes, yeah.
What do you think?
I think it's a very specific and potentially quite limited use case.
But I like it. I like the play on words with fire extinguisher and tire and extinguishing the tire. It's a funny play on words. Yeah.
Okay.
It's also, cool. I hate big SUVs in inner cities. So
Yep.
Fair.
Yep.
Fair.
But I live in Europe where people don't have
my kids to school.
I think I think direct action is definitely something that is valid. You do have to ask yourself, are you taking action or are you just fucking with people's shit?
Who spot the SUV owner?
I do not have an SUV. Wait,
And
yes, I do.
Yeah, but you have to also consider, so how much extra energy and emissions are going to come from the replacement of all these bloody tires? Because they're not going to get rid of the SUV, they're just going to get new tires.
Apparently, it's not slashing tires, it's sticking a lentil
them.
inside, leaving it there so that it deflates overnight.
All right.
Yeah, you
Okay, so not actual. Cool.
You get the valve and you just stick something that wedges in the valve and just holds it open so that all the air pressure goes out.
Okay.
Right.
Well, our last one that we missed was suggested by Adam. Adam, this one's for you.
This is prompt crafting, mostly spelled with a space. That's sometimes together, but as we know, originally the words, such words become are written with a space, but then sometimes they allied. And this is basically, so we had the last episode was about artificial intelligence, and this is now hugely popular. So in some AI systems, the user inputs some text and gets some result back. So for instance, in a text to image system like Midjourney, you can write something like nice photo of Mick Jagger, but that's not very specific. So you will get some results that aren't maybe such a great image. But then you may write something like Mick Jagger by David LaChapelle, 1970s. And then you may get some images that may be good. But then you can also write something like 1970s David LaChapelle style, colorful fashion, high angle, full body shot of Mick Jagger, pose, shot on 70mm film, award-winning editorial photography.
Yep.
And
Well
that's
crafted.
sometimes you may overcraft or overprompt, so you specify too many kind of details, and the system doesn't know where to go, and is trying to kind of merge too many concepts into one, but sort of fine-tuning this and writing these prompts well. That's sort of the prompt crafting, and there are lots of blog posts about it, videos about it. People are kind of discovering. And the really interesting thing is that these are often like visual artists who now are reading about, well, what's a noun, or what's a verb, or what's an adjective, what's a grammar, and that's sort of applying sort of some linguistic knowledge to it. But the other interesting thing is that some writers about this say learn prompt crafting for about a year, because these input systems evolve and they become better. So something like ChatGPT, which was mentioned in the last episode, you can write much more freeform. You can write a haiku about linguistics, and then you get linguistic study, uncovering language's depths, endless mysteries. But then you can sort of start conversing with it and tell it, oh, make it if you write something, make it longer, rephrase it. And then so you don't have to be so specific, and you don't have to learn this kind of particular grammar and syntax. So, but right now, prompt crafting is definitely trending.
That's very cool. It reminds me a bit of Google Fu, like to be good at searching. Because I've noticed that like there is people who are not good at searching. And I didn't know that until I saw people trying to search for solutions to problems they had, and I was like, that's not a good search phrase.
Let me just share this, Adam. Do you mind if I share the images that you made of us? You did a little bit.
I don't mind at all, dear.
Has Ben seen his yet?
I have
you
not
gave
seen.
us. So this was me.
Yes, it is. I know that immediately. Oh my god! What is the on your T-shirt?
It's a little. It's that non-language that engines give you, isn't it? So that was from a photograph. How did you get this one, Adam?
I think it was on the Facebook profile, and you have like there is one photo of you where you have like the Because Language T-shirt, and you sort of pull. So this is an input image. So you can also put an input image, and then you can say something like just cute Pixar character, or cute Pixar man, and then you can also mix it a bit, but it tries to infer a lot of the content from the image, and then you can kind of modify, you can apply like a stylistic modifier to it via text.
Okay, let's go to Hedvig.
He's very cute. Oh.
And the prompt was cute Pixar in this prompt? It was from a photograph.
I think yes. Yeah. I think it was cute Pixar young woman, but it was also using a photo of Hedvig that I found on the web. One of the so it's
maybe I should get glasses like that.
Adam posted the prompts in the Discord on December 14th at 1:53 p.m. Australian Western Standard. So if you want to find them, they're there.
Oh, general. I think it was general, yeah.
Yeah.
And then
I'm
there's
looking
one
at them
more,
right
yeah.
now.
What was Ben's prompt? Can you see it?
Oh God.
Ben's prompt was as cute, grumpy Pixar character, comma, with studio microphone, comma, 3D Pixar style, dash, no glasses, dash V4, dash. It's the best one.
God,
It's great.
oh my God.
Well, the funny thing is that, you know, Midjourney learns from available images, and apparently when there's a lots of images with studio microphone that involve people who are singing, so they have the mouths open. And when, you know, I didn't add the studio mic, then there was just a straight face or whatever. And I also used like an old, you know, from the talk times, there was like a couple of shots in the Facebook profile back then with like a red studio in the radio studio, and there was one
Phenomenal
image of Ben. But then when I added the studio microphone, then it suddenly started doing the open mouth, and then I added grumpy, and then it changed the expression. So that was like about a couple of iterations. That was basically prompt crafting. Like with Ben, it was a bit more challenging because there was only like 2 photos or so that I could find, while with Daniel, he had more photos, so basically the system was more flexible, or I could pick, you know, like a good candidate, like the one with a t-shirt. It was just, so it's a back and forth with the system, and that's basically prompt crafting, that's iteration. It's very fascinating.
The letter C should not exist.
This is.
I found it amusing that Daniel's prompt craft involved happy, and I don't know that he looks that happy.
Well, yes,
Maybe not.
There's always a compromise.
Daniel doesn't actually, I think, have that many pictures online of you smiling.
I maybe, possibly, not sure.
Yeah.
But then if you add like something like laughing to that prompt, even with an image, then Midjourney will kind of force the Pixar character to laugh, and that can get very grotesque, but also kind of funny.
Well, this has been a
That's
terrific
so
journey through
good.
the world of words of this year. Were there any themes? Shortages?
Crisis, energy, war.
Yep.
Yeah.
Apocalypse.
It doesn't sound like a fun time to be human based on the words that we've had this year.
Well, I got to say, I really like word of the year season is a lot like Christmas for me, because sometimes it's like, oh, already. But so this year I was looking forward to, I'm just really happy about both words of the year and Christmas for some reason. I just felt like, oh, goody, the new words are out. And it's fun and it's silly. And when we're going to talk, I had a chat with Mark Ellison, Linguist Pal, that's coming out pretty soon, but we talk about the whole word of the year phenomenon and how we have a repertoire, and when we can extend our repertoire in fun ways, we like to do it. And word of the year gives us a chance to sort of do that, except for all of the devastation and permanent crises and things.
Mm.
And it's also good sometimes to remember how the rest of society views this kind of academia. Like most people view it as like a fun way of summarizing the year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like what happened this year, it was a lot of discussion about what it means to be a woman. We'll pick woman, etc. I think about that sometimes, that like some of the, like for some other people, we're like a bit of a spice to the rest of the society. They don't think about us all the time, but they think about us a little bit now, and it's cute. We're cute. We're a little cute spice.
Mm-hmm. As long as we can avoid Columbusing words, as long as we're honest about attribution and saying, hey, a lot of these words come from African American English, or a lot of these words come from the queer community, or whatever.
Mm.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for all the help that you gave us, not just for bringing us words, but also for voting and for being here. This is a lot of fun. Let's get to some comments from Eve via email, hello@becauselanguage.com. Eve says, in this week's episode, you all mentioned only being able to infix fuck into abso-fucking-lutely. I submit the example.
I believe I came up with an alternative. I want to put that out there.
You did. Well, I think we're all having a collective brain fart about it, because it's just like, what's a good example? Eve says, I submit the example fan-fucking-tastic. It's my favorite swear to use when I'm
That
frustrated
one I
and things
know.
are going wrong.
Oh,
Love the show, says Eve.
we were sleeping on that.
It was just,
we really were.
it was at the end. We were tired.
I would like to
Alessandra,
submit that we're up to 2 now.
to what?
Does that mean it's a productive pattern in a language if we've got 2 cases? I want more.
I believe that I gave an example where you could take a random word like Kalamunda, the name of a suburb, as long as it was metrically dense enough, and you could do it.
Yeah, I reckon you could do it with, like, if you were frustratedly having to explain something to someone and you started off with "be fucking cause that's how it's gotta be." Something like that.
Unfucking believable or unbefucking believable. Not sure. Alessandra, one of our newest patrons, says, I've been recommended Talk the Talk by my Linguistics 101 professor, and now I'm in my 7th semester and still listening. Because Language is my go-to linguistics podcast, my go-to podcast, actually. And when I listen to it, I feel like I got my dose of world news. How about that?
Shit.
Really, I know. I really want to second the person who praised you for the generativism episodes. By the way, I was learning precisely about that when they came out, and they helped me so much sorting out my thoughts. I thought you might like this poem my brother Daniel prompted ChatGPT to write.
It's long.
Okay.
Maybe just two stanzas.
Okay. We'll put the whole thing up in our episode page for this episode. Noam Chomsky's ideas once held sway in the realm of linguistics they did play, but times have changed and now it's clear his theories are no longer held dear. Once his notion of a language innate seemed a groundbreaking idea, replete with evidence to support its claim, but now it seems it's lost its fame, and so on.
And it goes on for 3 more stanzas. And look, this
pretty good.
This toy like makes some good product. It's frighteningly
well,
good.
It tried to rhyme innate with replete.
I know.
I'm not sure you can call like an application supported by some of the best AI researchers doing this work, and also the systems that it runs on are toy. Like this thing is big. Like this thing would.
It's a very large, expensive toy. I'm sorry, you're right.
If it's something that people play with, it's a toy.
True, it's a toy in that way. But the like
in January or February, they're gonna be releasing ChatGPT 4, which apparently has like 50 times larger or something. And just so you know, training this, just the hardware and software costs, that creating this model, just the training, that costs $6 million.
Wow.
We
used it for Friday night.
Not the hardware.
What did you use it for?
We
Friday
were playing
night?
D&D, and one of our people couldn't join, so we just chat GPT to his character. So we told Steve, it was Steve's idea. Steve is a genius. That's why I'm married to him. So we were like, okay, there's this character. He has like these and these weapons. And the ChatGPT was really into the javelin, which is funny because our friend never uses the javelin.
What I love
like, I
is
take
that
the javelin
Brendan
and I stab,
What's interesting is if you like when it'll become sort of a more meaningful toy, I think, is like when you can run it on your own thing. And you can like train it on like you could record that person's sessions and then actually train a model on them.
Which
and
is
then
exactly
have them...
what we were talking to Dan about last week, right? Like his thing was, I want to be able to give this tool to individuals for the work that they want to do. And of course, he was talking about people doing really special, significant, important things like saving languages, but we want to play silly pretend role games.
Yeah. And I guess this is coming from my inside baseball. I'm a game developer, and games in general has not spent as much time on AI for like stories and emotions as they have for AI on thing you shoot, which is the problem. And there's been a large movement to like, can we do like narrative for a player, a single player? So all this stuff seems really exciting to us, but it's horrible because we're like, no one can afford to like run an Amazon cluster to service one player. Like the economics don't work. So
yeah, for sure.
I want it to be more of a toy.
They don't work yet.
Yeah.
I can sense that we're all very interested in this, and that Daniel has a very good idea, which is that we're running towards the end.
we got to wrap it up, but I'd like to say a big thank you to everyone who voted, all of you who brought us words, to Dustin of Sandman Stories, who recommends us to everybody. Thanks to the team at SpeechDocs who's listening to us right now. And I'd like to also thank everybody who appeared on the show for this entire year. And they are Rebecca Shapiro, Rickard Dockham, Jesse Grieser, Mignon Fogarty, aka Grammar Girl, Anna Marie Trester, Ellen, Kitty Liu and Romany Amber, Morton Christensen and Nick Chater, Tiger Webb, Jonathan Green, Mr. Slang, Ellen Joven of the Grammar Table, Tom Scott Phillips, Joshua Blackburn, Haley Gold, Hannah Little, Isabel Burke. Yeah, no. That was her thing. Not that I'm saying that to her.
Yeah, we're not saying no to
Kelly Wright, Chase Dalton, Don Von S, and all the great patrons and listeners that you heard tonight and throughout the year. Most of all, thanks to you, our dear patrons, who keep us going and give us so much support. Ben, take us to the reads.
If you like the show, here's what you can do. You can send us ideas and feedback. How do you do that, you ask? Great question, random disembodied voice in my head. You can follow us because we are Coslang Pod everywhere except for Spotify. You can leave us a message with SpeakPipe, which is a thing we say every week, and not many people are doing it, but we really want you to. You go to SpeakPipe and you record a little thing for us, and then we can play it on the show, and that'd be really cool. Or if you're particularly old-fashioned, or you've just got like heaps you want to say, like a creed or a manifesto, you can write us a good old-fashioned email, hello@becauselanguage.com. And of course, you can do the most lo-fi but highbrow of all things and recommend us to a friend.
Yes, friends are great. And we have a lot of friends.
Friends suck.
Friends are great, and we have a lot of friends. Friends is another word that I use for our supporters on Patreon. A lot of them who are here in the chat with us right now. And if you become a supporter of us on Patreon, you get bonus episodes, which is fun. You get to hang out with us on Discord, which is fun, and then you get to see silly things like what Adam created pictures of us, which
so good.
That was good.
It's very good, and I had actually missed in the flow of all the other messages, so I'm very glad that I got to see those today. And you also make it possible for us to give a little some money for our guests and pay so that we can get transcripts so that these episodes are searchable and findable and available to people who might want to read through it. And now I'm going to attempt. It used to be that the list of supporters on Patreon was such that I could do it in one breath. It is no longer the case, and I am not trying it anymore. Because it's just useless. Okay. Oh, and I see that it says check before airtime. Does that mean that I can use the version I have, Daniel?
Yes, you can.
Okay, good. Okay. Shout out to our top patrons. They are Istin, Termi, Elias, Matt, Whitney, Helen, Jack, Pharaoh Cat, Lord Mortis, Garma Yen, Larry, Christopher, Andy B, James S, Nigel, Meredith, Kate, Nasrin, Aisha, Moe, Steele, Margaret, Manu, Roger, Rianne, Colleen, Ignacio, Sonic Snedgehog, Kevin, Jeff, Handy from Logophilius, Stan, Kathy, Raj, Cheyenne, Felicity S, Amir, Kenny Archer, Tim, Alyssa, Chris W, Felicity G. And you can also donate to us on Ko-fi, which is, I think it's Ko-fi or Ko-fi, I'm not entirely sure, but it's a place a lot of people use to just, if you want to send us a quick short time donation, that's another place you can do. And we should also shout out our newest patrons at the listener level. They are Alessandra and Burek au fromage. So Burek is a Slavic Bulgarian thing, right?
I'm not sure. I'm
sure.
Didn't get time to look that up.
And fromage is cheese. I like Burek. And
Burek
also
is, I
Margaret.
think, Turkish.
Yeah. Good, thank you. And also Margaret, who bumped up to the supporter level after years of being a patron. Thanks to all of our amazing patrons.
Our theme music has been written and performed by Drew Koplianov, who's a member of Ryan Bino and of Didion's Bible. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time, next year, because language. Everybody wave. Bye. Thank you, everybody. That was a lot of fun.
Thanks so much. Thanks for being patient with me rocking up late, everybody.
We love you, Ben.